Okay, thanks everybody for your patience. So welcome to this evening's AWS Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Tonight's webinar is Forex Trading Live Market Analysis. We'll get into that very quickly, shortly. Just to give you a heads up from me this week, tomorrow will be a review of last month's price action. We'll have a look at the patterns that were forming last month and what could you have learnt and what could help you into this new month. And then on Thursday, more live analysis from me. Okay, so those are the webinars from me coming up this week. Before we get into it, if you can read through the disclaimer, that would be great. And while you're reading through, I'm having a few technical issues. My Zoom wouldn't work when I came on, so I've had to make it work a different way. So hopefully I'm coming through normally from your end. I've got the webinar chat open for questions. I've got the Q&A box open for questions as well. So if anything starts to fail, just put in the chat for me and I'll try and fix it up. So, all right, we'll move along. If you're on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see your chat, but you're more than welcome to join us in the webinar. I've given you the link. For those in the webinar, just use the chat box or the Q&A box if you have a question or not. All right, if you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trade Mentor here at ACY Securities. And been trading the Forex market now for more than 15 years, in fact, almost 20. Been mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. Through the week, you can connect with me at our website. Go to acy.com, go to the Market News tab, or our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia. And if you want to connect with me personally, just head over to my Linktree page. You'll get my social media handles there. My Linktree handle is Duncan Cooper FX. And if you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates, just contact Nathan.bray. His email is there. I will grab his details and put it in the chat for you. Do that now. He'll be able to help you out with anything going in the webinars. All right. Just bear with me one more second and then we'll get into it. All right, let's get into the news items for the week. All right, hopefully my Forex fact is just coming up on screen. If it's not, just somebody let me know. All right, so we've obviously had Easter. We're into Tuesday now, so this is at forexfactor.com time, showing my time, Queensland time. And we do have the German prelim CPI month-to-month coming out, but there is no time. It's sometime today. Getting into midnight, into Wednesday today, we have the US JOLTS job opening, so that can definitely affect the market. We then have at 10:15 p.m. tomorrow for the US ADP non-farm employment change. Midnight into Thursday, ISM services PMI data, 2:10 in the morning, US Fed Chair Powell speaks. Then into the later afternoon, Thursday, 4:30 for the Swiss CPI month-on-month. That's inflation. US unemployment claims at 10:30 p.m. And of course, then the next day we have the US job figures and Canadian job figures at 10:30 p.m. All right. So the market will be heading towards this job figures, but we obviously have Fed Powell speaking as well, and then a few other items. So just make sure you know what's coming out. So today, for sure, the ISM manufacturing PMI data will be in focus. I think, generally speaking, getting above 50 is growing, below 50 is contracting. I think that's how they generally look at it. All right, let's get into the charts now. We obviously had a sell-off yesterday after the news came out yesterday. What was a news item yesterday? It was the ISM manufacturing PMI data was. I just need to correct myself because that's obviously came in. That was last night's news. That's what drove the market down. So tonight's data that you really need to consider. It's not the ISM manufacturing, because I'm pretty sure I just said that. That's the one that just came out, and that's the one that's driven down the likes of the pound, the euro, and the Aussie down. Getting into the next item for the US is that one as we move into Wednesday. The US JOLTS job openings. Easter's just confusing me here. All right, so that's the next item to watch, and that can definitely affect the market. But that was the one that affected the market yesterday, as it did go into growing above what was expected coming into the market. All right, so we have seen the US dollar gaining strength. Here's the dollar index. All right, we've actually traded above the last weekly high now. So back to the weekly chart. We come up to a higher bottom at the 62% retracement. So I'm just anticipating this is going to continue moving up at the moment. There is an area over here that may be of a little bit big, surely for sure, be contentious for the markets. 105,695, just worth knowing that's there, because when we get there, we may see some profit taking. All right, and they've got the 127 extension at 106.21. So I'm expecting that we're going to be coming into this area, and of course we've got news items that can drive price up into that area through the week. But structurally wise, this is in an uptrend. Day chart is in an uptrend too. It's maybe a little bit overextended in the short term, and we may see a bit of a, a bit of a battle to try and move above 105.02. But that being said, it's in an uptrend. All right, so until we get a signal to say sell the US dollar, then I would just maybe have the anticipation that whilst we might battle this high, we are probably going to be continuing up on the dollar. And pairs to the dollar, we're moving down. All right, so let's get into, just have a look at the S&P 500. Bit of a reversal day yesterday with the news coming out, better than expected. Hasn't changed the uptrend, still higher tops and bottoms. It is very long in the tooth in terms of the weekly move at the moment. If we actually look at these weekly kind of legs, there's one there, then a minor pullback. And we're almost, if we do a bit of measuring, we're almost at maybe coming to the top of the next leg in terms of distance. Of course, we can move higher, but if we're getting equal legs, then we're getting maybe close to the price projection there. All right, so I would much prefer to see some kind of weekly correction. If I was trading the S&P 500, it's very, very high at the all-time highs. All right, but at the moment, this may well just hold its form. And if you're prepared to buy a dip at such high levels, then last 5 candles on the 4-hour chart have all been holding at the 62% level. So quite clear supports coming in at the 62% level of that range. So if you're trading this intraday, you can be looking at that area, 52.36 for support, to continue with the bulls, okay? All right, euro dollar. Let's go to the day chart. Now we're coming down into an area of support. Trend is down. And I've been saying that I thought this was a 62% failure on the weekly chart. And we've actually got a bigger range here where we failed at the 79% level. So we could actually be moving down. My drawing tool, the big scale, we could be coming down into 102.20 long term. All right, the minor scale at the moment, still downtrend, is we could be coming down to 105.74 here. This 127. So I would say long term, we could be coming down to here, maybe moving through to 127 extension. We have a clear downtrend, but we're just coming to a contentious area of support at the moment. So you just have to be aware where support is and make sure you're not selling at the last part of the move. All right, so we had a nice move down from this area of resistance, 107.95 up to about 108.01. We came intraday resistance there and we moved down to this area. So we may well, in the short term, bounce here at 107.23. But I would, I'm not seeing any reason for the trend to change yet, but I mean, something could happen on the 4-hour chart to make me think that. But we do have an imbalance from yesterday, this drop. So we may well just come up through the week. That's last week's low at 107.67. I would watch that to be resistance now. It's also the last one's low. All right. And of course, we could come higher up into the 62 to 79% area. So I would, if you want to continue with the trend and not try to reversal, these are the areas that I would be looking at for a rally failure to continue move down with the trend that we're seeing on the US dollar. Okay. All right. So definitely watch the last week's low up there or into the 62.79% area. We got really volatile maybe on Friday with the job figures. It could come all the way back up to 107.95 to 108.01. That would be a good area of resistance to watch. All right. But quite clearly we broke below there last week. You can see it became resistance nicely there, and that's caused the move down, that failure there. So at the moment on the 15-minute chart, it is showing a little bit of an uptrend on the 15-minute chart. Now, how high can we move back up really intraday? I'm giving you some levels to watch, but let me just get rid of that on the 4-hour chart. I'll put it on my 15. If we're very weak today, we may not get above the central pivot point. So that's one level to watch intraday here. And as I was saying before, if we do manage to reclaim, there's an imbalance here on the 15-minute chart, we could come back to reclaim all that drop. All right, that would then take us up very close to today's projected high. And also we got, as I've been saying before, last week's low here at 107.67. So a few areas to watch up here. And in a very weak pair to the downside, we don't often get above the central pivot point. So that's at 107.55. Two areas to watch at the moment. Now, what I'm now seeing as well, spending a lot of time on this pair, but this is where New York held the market after the drop, and we really haven't yet traded back to this area either. So we may only just hold here. So it's worth watching what happens here. Do you see a setup to sell? I'll be a lot happier if it did get back up the range a bit, but it depends how weak we are. All right, here again. Now we're in a downtrend here on the daily. On the higher time frames, weekly, monthly, we're in an uptrend, but we've both broke this top over here through the course of the month. Last week it became, we obviously moved above, but then we came back below. That top became resistance. And in this area here, on the intraday charts, that's already become resistance on the 4-hour chart. But we may well come back up to retest that area. And are we going to hold that day chart downtrend, maybe to come down to this area at 161.86? So 4-hour chart, we had the drop like the euro dollar. I would monitor the range here. And we can move it to the 15. It's a bit choppy. Like I was saying about the central pivot point being where the market will top out intraday in a very weak pair. We haven't been able to get up to the central pivot points through New York after we broke below last week's low at 162.92. It became resistance here. And we can see it's been resistance here once, twice, 3, 4 times. All right, so I would most definitely be watching that level for a rally to the central pivot point. Central pivot point's at 162.97. This area here, and it got the figure at 163. All right, price can come back into this area, but do we once more fail to continue down? The market at the moment is showing you where the sellers are. The news later on in the day could drive price up, and that could be, seeing this imbalance here get filled to come up maybe to the 79% level at 163.21. So at the moment, this is the area where quite clear the sellers are holding. So you need to decide, do you want to look at that area to trade, or do you want to wait and see if we can have a rally? At the moment, 4 times it's held there, so quite clearly the sellers are sitting there. All right. Euro pound, if we go to the weekly charts, we've actually moved up to a higher top, and then we're having a pullback to the 79% level. So that's the weekly upward move, pullback. I don't necessarily like the euro pound at the moment. It's very choppy in this consolidation area, but the weekly trend is up. We've had a pullback, a very massive reversal yesterday. And this weekly low over here, 85.43, has been tested once today already, and we're pretty much on that level right now. So if we just drop down to the 50-minute chart, you can see that we moved above here. So if I just draw it in, moved above, it became support to move off and up, support, support, and is it going to be support today? So you can monitor this area, 85.43. If we close back above here, what is your trigger to get long? You could be waiting in this area for a trend line break, or you could be waiting for a close above here. You could just be having a very tight stop just below here. Say we close here, that could be a trigger, stop below there. That's the intraday support at the moment at 85.43. All right, I've been saying for a while that this range here we could medium term be coming back up to the 79% level of this range. Kind of putting in a bottoming out process here. So if you like the euro pound, watching 85.43's intraday support at the moment, that could be where we are longer term holding for a long term move up the range, maybe back towards the 79% level at 86.68. All right, pound dollar, big following suit down the chart. All right, and I was discussing last month that were we failing up here at 79% level? So are we long term? So it's good to have a long term view. Down, rally, down. We had a very negative monthly rejection candle last month, and we've broken the low of last month. So are we just going to be trading down all month? All right, I'm kind of looking at that kind of scenario long term. Of course, we will need to break through the area of support here for that to occur. And you can see 2 support lows. Well, there's more support over here, but got 2 support lows here, 125.35, which we're just being a fraction short of, and then 125.18 down here, the low of the year at the moment. So we've been a little bit consolidatory through this period, last week and a half, getting some support here. And then we've broken below 125.99, so we're at 12600. Any good rally may well get capped there. That's last month's low just here, 125.75, and we're testing that right now. So today's rally may just stop there. Okay, we haven't quite got to that level yet. From my own perspective, I would much prefer to see it rally back up within the 4-hour range to the 62.79% zone. The 50-minute chart. Just underneath the 62 level, you got the 126 level and the 125.99 day support level, and that's where the imbalance. So that's where the imbalance started. The market decided, yep, we're dropping below support now. I'm just here. So if you've got the patience, I would watch the market to come up and fill this imbalance. Of course, it will have to move above this resistance area. Now, this resistance area at 125.75 overlaps with the central pivot point in last month's low. So that is going to be potentially a strong resistance level too. All right, so 2 areas to watch Firstly, does this area hold as resistance? Can you see your reversal setup? Or are we moving maybe up higher to the 126 area? Okay. Did have a convincing sell yesterday, so I don't know how much these pairs to the US dollar can reclaim. We'll have to wait and see. Imbalances are often filled, so we may well, come up at some point through the week. We could hold here today and trade back down and make a fresh low for the move, but maybe over the next 2 or 3 days we do come back up to fill this at some point. It's worth knowing where the imbalances have formed at the start of the week, and whilst we may still trade down today, we could come back into those areas at some point in the week. All right, pound yen. Now, it's one of the stronger yen pairs for sure, but we're very historical high levels here on the monthly chart. Monthly trend's up and the weekly trend is up. And we're on a little layer of support from the day chart here, having a weekly pullback. Bit of a massive rejection on the weekly chart, so I'm in two minds about which way long term this is moving, but in the short term, this area of support here, 190.07, is offering support, so around about 190 support at the moment. And through last week, this area of resistance before moving above couldn't hold a support on the pullback, became resistance, so we're kind of trapped between support and resistance here, 191.31 down to 190.07. With yesterday's drop, we may just be coming up inside yesterday's range. So I like the 79% level. Because this is rather range bound last week, I would most certainly be looking back up to the top of the range from 191.06 to 191.31. This area here, that's the area that I would watch in general terms for maybe a retest and a trade back down. May well could be rather range bound, this pair. The range loosely is here. All right, so you've already missed the opportunity down here to maximize getting long. So are we heading up now to the top of the range? And then to be fair, the top of the range to maybe trade back down to the bottom range. Of course, if we break above here, we could break above, become support, move higher long term. But at the moment, structural wise, we are kind of range bound between support and resistance. So all right, let's just drop it down to the 15. All right, so yesterday, I'd much prefer up here at the 79% level, but yesterday the drop started there's the imbalance, 79% level and the figure over here. This would be a good area to watch. If you're not already in the market, maybe long. General intraday trend for the whole week at the moment has been down. So can you sell a rally? Looking in this area up here for a reversal. All right, Aussie yen is actually the drop yesterday. We're coming back up to the selling levels of yesterday. Selling levels of yesterday. This is my 50-minute chart at the moment. Where you can see it's here, here, here. All right, we're fractionally short of those selling levels. Yesterday's range, getting close to 79. So 79% level at 98.79 overlaps perfectly with these highs over here. So that would be a great area to look at. And really, this is 4-hour downtrend, and we're having a rally at the moment. So I'm just going to go to the day chart first. We're coming back up inside yesterday's candle. We're a bit trapped on support here, 98.20, just short. And quite clearly that, this is resistance here. We haven't had a close over the last 3 days above this high over here too. So whilst, yes, we're up above that level right now, and we were above the level yesterday, we're not closing above this level at 98.58. So that's obviously meaningful for the market in its pricing point per day. Last 3 days, we've been starting to want to close below there. So be aware of that. For our chart, we went up yesterday and then false broke and came down. So it's rather choppy. Turned up and then turned down in the same day. Now, of course, it could turn straight back up again. And it's worth knowing that we are a little bit range bound. You know, does have a 4-hour downtrend in play, but it's worth understanding that, well, we could just come all the way back up to the top of the range once more. So if you're really prepared to be patient, I would look at the top of the range at 98.94, the 99 level. Now that we've already bounced down here, it's a bit late to get long because we're in the 62 to 79% area. We could definitely fail in the 62 to 79% area. There's a little area here. So I mean, that within this range, I mean, that could be a left shoulder, that could be a head, and we're simply coming up to the 79% area, where I was just showing on my 50-minute chart to hold, and then go back down to the bottom of the range. So definitely getting back into the sell area of this range at the moment. All right. And this is where the drop started yesterday. So just back to the start of the drop. So, you know, look, I would be looking from the 79% level. I'm looking in this area up here. In a perfect world, unless I started to see something else happening, just price come into this area, then start to hold. It is starting to reject as I'm talking because we're just testing those highs that got formed intraday yesterday. So, you know, so we're starting to watch now. Are we starting to fail to move back down the range? Aussie dollar, it's coming back up to broken support from yesterday, and it's just pretty much filled the imbalance. This is the drop. We dropped below support on my 50-minute chart here yesterday when the news came out, formed an imbalance in here, which we've just filling. All right, today chart. So you can see we broke below this area of support, 65.08, down to the next level, and we're obviously trapped between the two levels. So we're going to move above 65.08 today, or is that going to be the intraday area there where the sellers are now? That's the level we broke below yesterday. Is that going to be respected as resistance, trade down to then test 64.77? Can we break below there to continue down to 64.42? I'm still short from up here from last month. I think I'm short at 66.07 approximately. I'm hoping we're going to be coming down to test here and may break through. Hopefully we get a really good US job figures. All right, so 4-hour structures down after the breakdown yesterday. Just short of support. This is why I say when we're coming down to support, I'm not going to sell into this area because we get a bounce. Now, the question will be, can we hold in this area of support that was to continue down? So worth now watching the 15-minute chart. Can you see, you know, difficult to draw a trend line in here at the moment. There's a swing point just here, but there's a swing point just there. If we could get another swing point to form around here somewhere, then you could draw a trend line in. And do we get a trend line break to maybe confirm a reversal down from 65.08 approximate area there? Could stay more range bound if it really wanted to and come up to the 79% level, so you'll have to watch. But that's the level we broke below yesterday. Is the market now going to commit? Lawrence, you're saying the 79% level looks nice. It does look nice. You've got all these highs here and over here. I just have to monitor. And I would much prefer the 79% level. But we're in that zone where the news came out yesterday and then we dropped. So we may well just hold at the news level and move down. So you'll need a monitor. All right, let's get into now. I just want to see what that euro is doing. Well, all right, so that euro at the moment isn't, whilst it's put at a higher bottom here, this could be forming a lower top here because it's not wanting to get above this area that got formed late New York. What's that pound doing? Pound's falling short of the central pivot point, last month's low at the moment. All right, let's get into then the New Zealand yen. Day chart. So we've been closed below these three lows yesterday on the day chart. We could be coming down to this area of support 69.68 through the week. Again, there's the negative candle. What we're seeing on all pairs is we're seeing some reclaiming back of the drop of yesterday. So there's always that we're going to retrace back up inside the candle yesterday. A very logical area of resistance would be this 90.51 for our chart. More onto the range. Yeah, for me, all the time, in a perfect world, it would be to look to the 79% level or around there for failure. So we've got the 90.51 broken support. There's a little 4-hour area here at 90.56, which overlaps with the 79% level at 90.56. So you could get a little, we could rally back up. You could get a little, you know, head shoulder kind of thing at the 79% area would be ideal. All right, it's the 15-minute chart. Just testing Asia's high here, and it's just coming up. So it is worth understanding where the news imbalance started. It was here. So we're just kind of coming into that area there, coming into that area there as well. So we may just stall in that area. As in a perfect world, up here would be great, but you just have to be aware of. There was a shift sentiment yesterday when the news came out, because it came out. What was the news item again? The news item that came out yesterday, the ISM manufacturing, got above 50 when it wasn't expected. So that's, you know, it's no longer contracting, it's growing. So that could be a shift in sentiment, very strong to the US dollar. All right. So we may not want to be able to really go above now price point where that shift of sentiment occurred. Might just come back to fill the imbalances of yesterday on these pairs, because this is where the market decided, okay, we're going to shift. All right, New Zealand dollar. Now, I've been saying all last month, you know, this double top here, longer term trend is down. So the double top formed in line with the longer term trend here. Of course, we can't go back in time and trade this double top, but the price projection for the pattern's down here, 59.90. And we're actually trading down to a little area of support as well. But, and we could go much deeper. We could come down here this month if we want to, 57.73. The thing to understand is from our double top, we've started to break through this area of supports, testing this area of support at the moment. But the long-term trend is down, and the long-term movement, yeah, there's a high just here, just hidden by the buy, but that was a long-term move down on the monthly chart. That was a rally up on the monthly chart. If you go to your monthly chart to have a look. So I'm anticipating that this kind of leg here is going to unfold down long-term. So you're just looking to sell a rally on this day chart downtrend at the moment. This is one of the weaker pairs at the moment. All right, for our chart, same kind of story. We're hitting support like I was showing in the Eurodollar. So is that just going to create the bounce to come up to where we started to hold as resistance? See how we move below resistance. Tried to put in a little uptrend here, but failed at resistance twice. Then we've moved down. So I'll look for this to maybe come back up to the 79% level at 59.80, resistance at 59.85, this area here. We get back up there, we're at the top of the range once more. That's where the sellers have been over the last week. So on the ladder in the last week anyway, that's where they started to hold the market to the sell side. We get back to there, expect them to be there. All right, 50-minute chart. So the imbalance on this 50-minute chart, well, there's actually a couple here. There's one here, which got partially filled. And then there's one there that's being a little bit filled at the moment. Now, it hasn't been able to get to the central pivot points. That would be the first level to watch. Yes, we could come up to the high end of the range. It's worth watching. If you start to see maybe this hold at the central pivot point, have a look at the other pairs. Are they all, we're having a corrective move intraday at the moment. The US dollar is losing some of its ground from yesterday, but we're seeing that across all pairs. So if you wanted to maybe trade here, a reversal, what are the other pairs to the US dollar doing? Are they all starting to turn over to the downside as well? So don't trade these US dollar pairs in isolation. If all the other US dollar pairs to the US dollar moving up and you think this is turning and the other ones aren't turning yet, then potentially it could still move higher. So we seeing them all turn over together. All right, so watch the central pivot point. Just want to see what that pound's doing. It's not getting to the central pivot point. So likes the euro dollar. If the euro dollar really doesn't get past here and the New Zealand dollar starts to turn, then it's probably turning. The euro dollar is rather weak at the moment. Pound's not getting to the central pivot. What's the Aussie? All right, Aussie's trying to get above 65.08, so it could, could get up to the 79% level it really wants to today. Keep monitoring for a trendline break though, close to that area. All right, dollar Canadian. It is a little bit indifferent at the moment to what we're seeing on the other pairs with the US dollar, in that it's not going to a new high. All last week it was topping out to my day chart at the top of this range. It's dropped down into the kind of the middle of the area, have a pop back up. Today though, it is failing at 79% of the range, so I wouldn't like to trade. I was going to trade this down to the bottom of the range. I would want to be trading at the 79% level. Stop above here. So I wouldn't want to be getting in at a worse price than that. I'd either have to look at that price or leave it alone. Now the 4-hour chart, let me just drag this out of the way of the most immediate price action. Depending on what the news does through the week, that's last week's high. That's a fresh low for this week. Is I would watch for the opportunity that might present here at 135.92, the 79% level. So, we've been down. We could well come up to there. We could come back up to retest the highs and then once more fail. Really struggling up there at 136.05-ish level. Okay. So a revisit of 136.05. And then if you start to see it fail, you have to say, well, we're back at resistance, or we're moving down. As well on the buy side, 134.58 here. Later in the week, we could be down here that could well hold as the bottom of the range once more. And then you might see down here the opportunity to trade back up. So at the moment, the question would be, you know, you could be trading at this 79% level. Stop above here. You could be trading at this 79% level. Stop above here. Or you could be waiting for this maybe to try and come into this area once more and then try and trade this area. Stop above. Okay, so at the moment it's just kind of in the middle of the range there. You need to be looking to the high end of the range to see if it's going to fail once more. Of course, if we get a lot of US dollar strength, maybe the dollar Canadian can regain its strength and move above those highs, but for whatever reason it doesn't want to. So the market is telling you that that's a tough area at the top there for the dollar Canadian. So don't want to be buying into there, and if you see weakness up there, that's where you want to be obviously looking for maybe a trade back down. All right, dollar franc, it's getting into a very strong area of resistance here. Tough being a buyer at the moment. It's not tough being a buyer if you're already long. Tough being a buyer here though if you're thinking, well, I can see where the trend is. This is the weekly chart and it's up. This is the day chart and it's up, but you're trading straight into resistance. So you have to pick your battles. Yeah, I'd probably just look at another pair at the moment. I know where the trend is, but I don't want to trade it. I don't want to be buying into here. Get on my weekly chart, weekly lows and weekly high area here. I don't want to be buying in there. I would probably need to maybe look at my 4-hour chart and go, okay, well, if I wanted to get long, I'd have to look at the 4-hour range, which is here at the moment, and I'd have to look for a dip and be prepared to buy away from the resistance area on a pullback. So looking for something like a pullback to the, the 62-79% zone here. There's a nice little area of resistance there. There's a little bit of a base there before breaking out. So back down to the approximate area there of 90.25. I'd expect support there intraday to come in. And if you're keen to get long this pair, below the area of resistance, so then can you get a breakout? That will be the way to go. But right where it is now, you headlong into resistance. It's the same like on the euro dollars getting very close to support. You have to sell a rally down into support, buy a pullback before you trade into resistance. And then can you support a resistance break? All right, dollar yen. This is what we've been battling with now for a good 2 or 3 weeks. We're back up to the sell area on the chart. Let me just delete these things off. All right, so rather range bound here on the 4-hour. We've come back up to fill this imbalance here on the 4-hour. Just out to the day chart. We're just underneath the 22, 23 weekly chart here. 22 high, 23 high. We did go to a fresh high just by like 1 or 2 pips. I did get short up there last week. And we had a outside candle, and then we're coming back up to fill the imbalance. I mean, we could be maybe forming a very poor little left shoulder head, right shoulder here in some form. We got all these 4-hour highs to the left here, and the final high there at the moment. We have come back up to the 79% level of last week's drop. You can see it right there. It's 151.76. All right, that's where we held yesterday. Tried to move above yesterday once, twice. So going short this pair is going against the overall US dollar strength that we've been seeing, but we're all aware of the very high price of the dollar yen and Will the bodge intervene at this area once more? We can't convincingly move above the 22 and the 23 high. So are we going to end up with a triple top up here? It will be the 22 high, the 23 high, now the 24 high. Today, we've moved up to this high, just getting above yesterday's high. Sold off, tried to get above this high, and then sold off. So anywhere back up into this zone would be a great area to watch. So that's 79% level once more, 150, 176 area approximately is quite clearly where today we're meeting. Yesterday we met the sellers, filling the imbalance on the 4-hour chart, and we're being held there. So seeing any further failure there up there, to me, is telling you that, okay, it's a high probability sell is going to trade back down the range. Yes, it's against the US dollar flavor at the moment, but we do have the US dollar potentially lowering interest rates they've said in June, but we'll have to wait and see. There's a bit of a fundamental shift in Japan in terms of their interest rate starting to maybe come up. So there's a little bit of, there might be a long-term fundamental shift going on, and maybe the market doesn't want the dollar yen to move any higher now. And maybe there's traders in here changing their positions. All right. Now, of course, if by the end of today we get a really strong, let me get rid of that fib, can't see the day chart. If we get a really strong close above here today, well, maybe then we have to reconsider things. But whilst we keep failing up here, this isn't where you can't buy into major resistance. Sure, if we close above and resistance becomes support, you can change your mind. But at the moment, it's not really where you want to buy. Now, for you, might not be where you want to sell either. But you've got two options, or three options. You do nothing. You can sell at resistance. Is the wiser thing. And support's down here. So if we do come down to 150.87 this week with job figures, any news item that drags it down, that is support here from 150.102 down to 150.87. All right, so rather sideways. It's maybe got a little bit of self-favoritism up here at the moment in the sell zone. So you either decide to sell or do nothing, okay, on that dollar yen. Gold going to new heights. Looks like it's cleared this monthly area. It's cleared that rejection area, so at new heights. I always find it difficult to trade something that's at new heights, because why do you want to buy it at the highest price? Weekly trends up, day trends up. I'd have to see a pullback in some form, maybe on the day chart. I think it's a little. There was a low to high there. Then we pulled back to here to 79% lower. We're almost at the 162 extension. So whilst we can go higher, logically, if you like to use fibs and buy the pullbacks, you'd want to be looking at the next pullback. All right, monitor this for the next pullback. 62% level overlaps quite nicely, or very close to 21.95 and this high here, 21.90. So are we going to see a nice pullback into that area to be support now? That would be the first time that area becomes support. Because prior to that, we had a rejection on that candle, we rejected on that candle, and yes, then we've moved through. So that area should become support if we can pull back. You could watch this high as well, 22.63 to be support, but you want to look for a pullback. All right, it is overextended in the short term, so that's my thoughts on gold. All right, everybody, apologies for a bit of a delay at the beginning. I'm going to have to see why I've got Zoom. Obviously, I use Zoom all the time, and my Zoom app is installed on my computer, but for some reason it's not working. or it doesn't want to work. I don't know if anybody else has had the same problem. But hopefully I'll check it out before tomorrow's webinar. So tomorrow, if you want to join me, I will be going through a review of last month's price action and patterns that were forming. What could you learn? If you want to join me, that will be tomorrow, 8 p.m. Sydney time. My webinars this week are 8 p.m. Sydney time. Next week, they will shift to 7 p.m. as we have the daylight saving shift. Well, shift from daylight saving back to normal time in Sydney. My webinars will then be 7 p.m. next week. You'll see here next Tuesday, 7 p.m. All right, so if you want to join me for another webinar this week, just head over to the webinar page and register your interest. So tomorrow is going to be a review. Live market analysis on the 4th. There's also Luke is also doing some webinars, so make use of all the webinars that we've got coming up for the month. Just head over to the webinar page and register your interest, okay? Other than that, I don't think there's any more questions coming in, so just before we just convene, let's just see how these pairs are retracing. Our Aussie yen could be stalling up here at yesterday's intraday highs. All right, getting a bit of selling pressure here at 65.08 Aussie dollar. But the daily resistance that we broke below yesterday, so we're just filling the imbalance. Euro yen is back into the highs of the day. Euro dollar, it is coming up to test that little area from New York's, the latter end of New York where it closed. Pound, struggling to get to the central pivot point on last month's low, the low last month that we broke below. Nzdjpy hasn't quite yet got to the central pivot point. That's at 59.60 if you don't have my charts. All right, so we're seeing a little bit of a reclaim, but how much they can reclaim, you have to keep watching. Do you see your trigger for reversal back down the charts from yesterday's drop? All right, just be aware on the news front, we have that US news on midnight, the job openings. That may give us an insight into what's maybe coming on Friday. So just watch that, okay? Other than that, thanks everybody. Hope you had a great Easter. You didn't eat too much chocolate. And look forward to seeing you later in the week. Have a great trading week, everybody. Thanks.